Coming up on episode 136 of Creative Writing, I'm talking all about how you can make money with your creative work.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello, and welcome to Creative Writing. This is the podcast for you, a writer, blogger, or creative who wants to build an online platform without being smarmy. I'm your host, Kirsten Oliphant, and I'm super glad to be back again this week with the podcast with episode 136. 136 episodes. That's crazy. It'd be more if I hadn't taken a couple breaks along the way, but here we are. And I want to talk about something that I think is super important, which is the idea of making money with your creative work, and specifically with thinking about the cost of this. And I don't mean financial cost. I mean emotional burdens, time burdens, other kinds of things. Costs I don't hear anybody else talking about. So I don't know. I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about this. I don't know if it'll be mind-blowing or kind of like, well, duh. But these are lessons I kind of learned the hard way and am just now, 3 or whatever years into the podcast and building creative writing. Now I'm kind of figuring these out. And so I wanted to share with you some of the things that I have learned and am still learning. So maybe it'll save you some time or help you find clarity, because again, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. So if you want to find the show notes, if you're a reader or want to find the links that I'm going to share, you can go to creativewriting.com/136. And that's where the show notes for this episode will be. So let's talk about how to make money with your creative work. And I want to start with a little bit of a list, because I think this is super helpful to think about. And you may or may not have already seen or picked up my book, 31 Small Steps to Grow Your Blog. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. But that's essentially a book that I wrote that has 31 kind of like small action steps you can take. But there are two really important and valuable kind of additions to that at the very end. And the first is revenue streams and planning them. And then the second is why your blog isn't growing. And I want to kind of talk about some of the revenue streams now that I mentioned in the book. So if you want to know more about some of these revenue streams and kind of if they're for you or not, you may want to check the book out. I think it's like $4 on Amazon. It's a great value for what you have in there. So I'm going to list these off, and this is not an exhaustive list, but this is how I see most people making money with their creative work these days, kind of in the online space. A little bit offline too, but mostly the online space. Okay, so here is the list I'm going to give you guys. First, there's books or ebooks, online courses, coaching, and that could be individual coaching like one-on-one or a group coaching program, membership sites, paid trainings. This could be teaching at like a college or teaching locally, in-person workshops or online workshops, affiliate sales, sponsored blog posts or sponsored social shares, ads on your site, like, the old-fashioned little picture on the side that comes from Google, or I use Mediavine or whoever, where those ads are running on your site. Based on traffic, you'll get paid on those. Physical products, paintings or an actual I already talked about physical books, but it could be something else that you actually make, creative work. We have some people who do like knitting things and all kinds of different things in the group. So physical products. And the last one is side jobs. And these are often related to the thing that you do anyway, but we have people who are virtual assistants in our group. We have editors in the group where they have their own creative work, but then they also kind of bring in some income doing the same kind of thing or something related to that by doing it for somebody else. So those are some of the main income streams that I see and have tried a lot of those myself. And so I want to talk about sort of what I've learned over the past couple of years about the hidden costs. And that's maybe what I should have said up front. It's not just the cost, because the cost in terms of financially, this can vary. Somebody was asking in the Creative Writing Facebook group today what the cost is, ballpark, to get a cover done, editing done, marketing done to release a book. And it's like, you can't really answer that because it depends where you get things done. And some of those things I'm like, I wouldn't hire out your marketing and things like that. So it's really hard to give ballpark estimations for some of those things. And you can really bootstrap a lot of stuff. My very first online course cost me nothing. I built it on the website I already had, and it was password protected, and I didn't make a killing, but I think I made like $1,500 or something, with a really tiny email list and just selling like basically a page with information. So, you can be super cheap with a lot of things that could also cost you a bunch of money. But I want to talk about the hidden costs. I want to talk about the costs that I have seen take a toll on me. And you're going to learn some things about me. I'm revealing the fact I'm a little bit of a weirdo, and that's okay because we're all weird in our own ways, right? Right. But some of the costs that I found. So here's some examples, but I really think it's important. And this is the reason that we're doing this whole episode. I think it's really important if you are planning out how you're going to make money with your creative work, how this cost impacts you and how it impacts your audience. And so I'm going to kind of touch on audience as well. And at the end, I might make a little statement about why I think it's okay to make money with your creative work. But we're going to go ahead and go on the assumption that that's the camp I'm in, that it's okay and wonderful when you can find ways to make money with your creative work. Okay, so here's something I learned way before creative writing even started, but I wanted to talk about it because it was a lesson, it seems very obvious to some, but if you haven't had business training, so like my training is all like I have a master's degree in creative writing. We did not learn one thing about platform promotion, anything else other than sometimes we talked about the fact that you get an agent and then you publish or you submit your short stories to literary magazines. Like that was it. Like we did not talk about this kind of stuff. But long before that, when Rob and I first got married, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had been working for a church, which I felt like did not prepare me for any real jobs. And I could not get a job. I kept getting asked to paint furniture and paint murals. And so I actually started a small business called Grace Sky Designs. Terrible name. Didn't know anything about naming or business. And the biggest jobs I did, I painted murals for 4 or 5 of the YMCAs here in Houston. And some of them are still up, which is really cool because I now go to the Y, and I went to one of the Ys that I painted the mural and it's still up, and it was really fun to see. And those were, pretty expensive projects. I realized later that I way undercut. Like I think the murals would have cost like $20,000 and I got like $2,000 and was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So like, again, business is not my thing, y'all. So I did murals and I did hand-painted furniture for children, like little kids' tables and chairs with nursery rhymes and things like that. So, I was an English major undergrad, but I almost was an art major. So painting is one of those things that I can do. So I started doing that, had a lot of nieces and nephews, and they commissioned work for me. And then I would go to these shows, like festivals and things where I'd have like a booth for myself or shows in homes and whatever. And word of mouth got out and I would make these things. But I realized really quickly that this was not sustainable for me because the cost of furniture was incredibly high. So I got wholesale prices, but basically wholesale prices weren't that much cheaper. So like I would get a table and chair set, 2 chairs and a table for $150, which meant that I had to sell that thing. And that wasn't including any of the cost for supplies. It was not including my time. And I really had a hard time even selling these for $300. Now, I will say that I know that people pay way more than that for hand-painted stuff, but I could not find those people. That's not who I hang out with, are the people who are buying like $10,000 things for their kids. Like that's not my crowd. They're fine. You know what? If you're doing that, I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, I don't know where you live. I don't know how to find you. We're not hanging out too much. And so, I just couldn't sell them for enough. And also, if I wanted to get the cost down for tables and chairs, I found a place that would give me a really steep discount, but I had to order like 100 tables and chairs. Well, we were living in like a garage apartment. We were just newly married. It was not sustainable. And I did not think about that cost before I went ahead and got business cards. I got a website. I paid someone to design the website, which who's even looking, like whatever. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. And I hadn't really thought about the cost in terms of my time, because that was really the main thing, is that it would take so long to make these tables and chairs. And then to make them more durable, the kind of finish that I would have to do, it required I think I would do 6 to 7 coats of polyurethane. Anyway, it was crazy ridiculous. And so sometimes, with these products, we don't think about ahead of time the cost of our time And you just have to. You have to think about the cost of your time. And with physical products, obviously there's that space issue. Like, can you do it? But the real thing I started to realize with that failed business, or I don't think I lost money, I just stopped doing it. What I realized is that you have to kind of look at that cost up front and decide, is this going to be sustainable for me in the long term? And so that's important. It's not just about physical products. Like when I give an example like this, think about it for all your things, but I'm just trying to make it kind of come more alive with the examples that I have. So a second example would be with the membership site. And so I've had a membership site for about 2 years. I think I launched it about 2 years ago. And ever since I launched it, I've been debating about taking it down. And I actually just took it down. I refunded everybody who paid for the year, and I stopped the monthly payments, although I'm having trouble getting them to stop. The company I'm using keeps taking them, even though I cancel them, but we'll work that out. That's a separate thing. That's not the cost I'm talking about. But for me, and here's where I'm going to share that I'm weird, something that I found with this membership site is I love the people in it. Love it. Love you guys who are listening, because I know a lot of you guys are listeners of the show. It had nothing to do with them. This was a definitely, I really mean it, it's not you, it's me kind of thing. But I found that when you're having a membership site, kind of what that looks like is that you are giving something every month, because why else would people pay you every month for something continually? And so for me, I was constantly trying to find the balance of what makes sense for what I'm charging the people to stay in this membership site. What do I feel like is a good value for them to pay, but also what do I want to produce every month? And it really wasn't a lot of work. We did kind of some monthly calls where we'd all talk to each other and just check in. And then I would do like one training every month where I would either do a live training and then, they could watch the replay, or I would just create a video or something. I did some spreadsheets on launching and book sales for them 1 month. So it wasn't even a video. It was just like on paper or docs that they could use. But what I found for me is that started to feel like a really heavy burden emotionally and mentally for me. And I am, I did talk to my husband about this once, but other than marriage, like I'm not really good with commitment. I really like to be able to cut and run. I like to be more spontaneous. That's just kind of how I am. And so for me, I felt like this membership site hung over my head monthly. I was constantly feeling burdened by it, even though the work wasn't that hard. The people were delightful. That's just how I worked. And I did it for 2 years and kind of pushed through. And, there are people that came and didn't feel like it was enough value. There are people that were like, please stop giving so much teaching. I haven't even caught up with your past things. I had people assuring me like, hey, we would just stay for the Facebook group and keep paying because I had a private group with it. But for me, no matter what I tried, I always felt that burden. And so, and some of this has to do with being an introvert, I think, but also some of it's just my weird personality that I don't like to have something where I feel like I'm locked in. That makes me really cagey and claustrophobic, which is funny because I'm actually not claustrophobic. I love caving in small spaces, but in terms of mentally and emotionally, I felt claustrophobic with something like this where I was locked into a commitment about it. So that was another thing. And some of these things you're not going to know until you try them. But I think it's really helpful to share this because you might be like, oh, I hadn't thought about that with a membership site, that you constantly every month have to do that. And if the people all pay up front and you have them pay yearly, then you've already gotten all the money. You may have already spent all the money, but you're still having to create that content. And that might feel even more like a burden. So another example that kind of goes off the back of that and goes more into my introversion is the idea of coaching. And I don't promote coaching very much. You might be like, oh, I didn't know you did that. Well, I do, but I don't very much. And the reason I don't do it very much, I think, is because, again, I'm working with really delightful people. So if you are someone who's worked with me one-on-one, I have enjoyed thoroughly all of my one-on-one coaching sessions, all of them. I get off the phone with people or off Skype and I feel excited for them. I feel energized. I feel like, wow, I think that was helpful for them. I feel really happy about that. But leading up to it, I dread it. I dread it. I don't like the preparation. I don't like feeling, again, like this is hanging over my head to talk to this person. And I think a lot of that's being an introvert. I'm not shy, but there's just something that exhausts me about people. And so one-on-one especially is a draining thing. And, one-on-one work is really, it should be my jam. When I worked at a church, I was a youth director. Well, I was not the head person. I worked with the girls underneath the youth director. We had a junior high guy. There was me in charge of girls and then a head guy. And I met probably with 7 different girls every week for like breakfast at different times, not all together, like 7 different people. We do breakfast. I had breakfast with a few people. I had people I'd pick up after school. Some people we would go out at night or go to dinner once a week. And doing, what like a lot of people commonly in the church would call discipleship. So like hanging out, sharing life together and doing some kind of teaching or just, being there to pray for them or do Bible studies, whatever it was. I was great at that. I loved that. That was my jam. But for some reason in this kind of space, it just drains me. And maybe it's getting older. I know a few people who've talked about getting older and feel like their need to kind of pull back from things like this is really stronger now that they're older. I also have 5 kids and my kids drain a lot of, the energy I have for people. It's just gone. And so I don't know what it is, but what I will say is that it's really hard for me mentally and emotionally to do the one-on-one coaching. And so again, if you are one of my clients, this is literally, it is not you, it's me. Because I have definitely enjoyed my time with people, but it feels like it takes, if I have like a half-hour session or 45-minute session, I feel like it ends up being hours more than that, a little bit because of the prep, but mostly because beforehand I'm distracted thinking about it. And then afterwards I need to recover. So that was just a cost I hadn't really thought about with coaching, because that's actually how I started. I was planning to start creative writing to work one-on-one and did a lot of one-on-one work in the beginning. And I didn't realize, I think it was sort of subconscious, that I got out of that work and moved into courses. So I'm going to talk about courses next. So what I learned about courses and the cost of those, I love courses. And I would say that that's maybe one of the, especially if it's like kind of a grab and go course that you do on your own time, I think that's one of the best fits for me as an introvert who also loves teaching. And so, because you can set up a whole course and then people can take it on their own. But in some ways, that was like too much of a disconnect. I feel like very much like Goldilocks, like this is too hot and this is too cold. So like one-on-one coaching is too much and courses are too hands-off, because a lot of them really are, at least the way that I have sold the ones that I've done, are pretty much like, here is your whole course, enjoy, bye-bye. And for me, as a person who takes them, I love courses like that where you just peace out. And I like it if the person's a little bit connected. Like there's a few courses I've bought where like I know the person has no idea who I am. I know if I email them, they'd have to be like, what is going on? Like there's no contact at all. I'm in other ones where there's like a Facebook group where it's really specific, and somewhere it's like a little bit more general. So like anyone who's taken the course in the past 3 years, isn't it? So it's like a little bit more loosey-goosey. It's not like a setup kind of thing. And I've done some different kind of options for people. But anyway, courses, the thing that bothered me the most about them is feeling like it wasn't valuable for people. Not because the content wasn't great, but because with a hands-on course, and I know this because this has been me, people don't tend to take them. So unless you're really, really self-motivated and you buy like one course a year, you might be a person who's bought a bunch of courses, maybe gotten a bundle where there's courses included in that. And you have courses you've forgotten about. In fact, I will say I have probably bought 5 courses that I either never finished or never even started, at least 5. And one of them was expensive. Now, I've also saved up for a course that was like $1,000. And I've talked about this being a big waste of money on another podcast. I'm not sure which episode right now. I think it was like how I wasted my $1,300 mistakes of 2015 or something. It's one of the earlier ones. You'll probably have to actually go to my website, Creative Writing, and go to podcasts, the page, because the player will show, Apple Podcasts will only show you the last 100 episodes. So you're going to miss the first 36. And I think it might be that first 36. But in any case, that $1,000 course was a mistake. However, because I paid so much for it and was planning to take it and was excited, I did the entire course, every video, filled out the workbook, boom, because of that motivation. But I have people who email me and they're like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm just now taking the course of yours I bought last year and I can't find it again. And, you guys are probably like, oh yeah, I've been there. Where like, you bought a course and you don't know where it is. So yeah, that happens. And so that's the only downside to me for courses is I feel like I want to know there's no feedback that comes from that for the most part. It's really kind of hard to balance the whole do it on your own pace, but also to know that people are getting the value from it and to have some kind of connection. Again, you can't have it. I'm like, I want it both ways. Like, I don't want to be exhausted by you, but I also want to know that you actually took the course, that it helped you. I want to know what it did for you. I want to know that you're taking it. I want you to take it because I don't want you to waste your money on a course you don't take, because I've wasted my money on courses I haven't taken. And so that was, just something that I thought of with courses where I like them, but I'm not sure I'm going to create too many more of them, because in some ways, like, the cost was me worrying that people were paying money for something they weren't going to use. I know the value in the courses that I created was good. I really firmly believe that. I believed in the courses they created, but I also feel like probably a lot of people paid for them and never ever did anything with them. And I hate that. And I hate, I don't want to babysit people. I don't want to police them. I don't want to be totally over involved, but I also don't want to feel like it was a waste of everybody's time. And so that's the thing with courses. There's this weird like nagging guilt about it because I don't know what's happening with them. So the sweet spot that I found this summer, and I talked about this in episode 135, is writing books. And it's funny because like my degree is in fiction, but for years, and I've talked about this in different episodes and interviews I've done, for years I really didn't think I could do fiction while I had little kids. And it really was only when I switched genres to something that's way more easy breezy. So I've been writing fiction under the pen name Emma St. Clair. I'm writing clean romance. And then in the spring, I've got a whole series planned out that's like young adult kind of spy, I guess, thriller. And I'm super excited about that. But again, light, very plot driven. I would say that the writing is not as beautiful. There's not as much depth or richness to the writing. I'm still very proud of the writing I've done, but it's not the literary fiction that I was trained to do that I really struggled to write after I had kids, where I felt like I really had to go deep into that space, where this kind of writing that I've been doing, I've really just kind of embraced. It's been very easy and fun, and I've loved it. And so the benefit of this is that the way that I sell these books, yes, I have an email list and I do tell them when I have a new book out. But unlike a launch for like a course where you feel like you have to just keep emailing people and hammering it in and then seeing how many people actually bought, I have no idea. I mean, I can see how many people clicked on my links and in the emails, but I have no idea how many people bought the book from my email list. And that's totally okay, because I also have Amazon ads running in the background to catch traffic on Amazon. I also am doing paid promotions on sites like My Book Cave or eNewsReader Today or Robin Reads, where they're using their email list. And so I don't feel like I'm burdening my people with the constant need for them to support me by paying. And I don't know if that sounds weird to you, but it's sort of like, when I was creating courses and coaching, I felt like I was constantly like asking for money. And while I think it's okay to ask for money, I give tons of free value. Like, I don't think it's like I shouldn't. It didn't feel great to me to have to do it that way. Whereas this way, in some ways, like, and also people are paying way less, right? They're paying 99 cents or $4 at the most right now for one of these fiction books, but I'm making a good deal of money, with this, and I'm close to making a full-time income, and I see it in my sites, but I don't feel burdened. I don't feel like I'm burdening my people with constant, like, go buy my book, go buy my book, go buy my book. I don't think I'm doing that. And I don't feel a weird guilt about it. I don't feel anything. It's very simple and easy, and I love what I do. So that doesn't mean that books are the answer for you. It means that you need to kind of consider all of these costs for you and for your audience. And also for like the relationship between you and your audience. Because again, when you're selling a bunch of high-end things all the time, for me, again, you may feel differently. For me, it felt like this sort of pressure that was put on the relationship I had with my audience, where I just wanted it to be chill. And I didn't want it to feel, I don't know. I didn't want people to feel the pressure that to support me, if they really love my work, they need to buy a $300 course. They could go buy a $3 book and really enjoy it. And the end, and that's great. And so that's what it felt like for me. So I have some questions that I want to kind of leave you with as we close up. And I'd love to hear your feedback. You guys are going to have to talk to me in the Facebook group. creativewriting.com/community is where you can find that. I'd love to know if this was helpful, or kind of like, why did you think you need an episode on this? My hope is that it's helpful, because I don't hear anyone talking about it. I wish someone had talked about some of these things so I could have considered these costs. So here's some questions I want you to think about as you are planning out your revenue streams. What does it cost you to create whatever it is that you're creating? And I want you to think about that in terms of the time, the emotional cost, and to get a little woo-woo, the sort of soul cost. Like, what is it doing to your soul to do this kind of work? Because maybe you're making a lot of money, but you hate how it feels. And if you don't have to make that money that way, and maybe you just do, maybe this is just for now, the way you're paying the mortgage, and that's what you have to do at that point. But what does it cost you? Do you love it? Does it energize you? Or does it stifle other work that you wish that you could spend time and energy doing? And then think about as well, what does it cost your audience? What size is your audience? That's kind of a good one to think about. And if you're able to figure this out, like, what is their price point? So if you have an audience, a lot of times, some of the things that I have been promoting are more expensive, like courses and one-on-one coaching and things like that. Whereas a lot of the feedback that I get from you guys is that your price point is just way lower than that, which again, I think led to some of that feeling of pressure on me, because I feel like I was pressuring you. And I don't want to have that between us. I don't want to be making money in a way that distances me from my audience. I want it to be a very mutually beneficial thing. So is it going to strain your relationship with your audience to have to promote whatever it is you do? And so this is one of the reasons I really like something like ads. Now, to get ads on your site to be profitable, you have to have a lot of traffic. And so that's the downside to that, is that, the cost of getting money is that you have to promote, and or do great SEO, or have Pinterest really love you so that you can get tons of traffic to make that ad money. But the nice thing is every month I get money from Mediavine, and from just ads on my site where I'm not having to do anything. It doesn't cost you anything to go to my website other than the cost of seeing an ad, in my content or on the sidebar. That's the cost to my audience. And for some people, that cost is too high. And I have had sites, like I don't have ads on creative writing. I don't really do sponsored posts over there for that reason, for the user experience. I don't want to lose, I don't want that cost on my audience. And so anyway, these are things I want you guys to think about as you're planning out how you make money with your creative work. Just don't miss this. Okay. If nothing else, just think about this as you're doing it, that there is going to be a cost to you, and it's not just the financial cost, it's the cost to your inner parts, that's really a bad way to say that. I'm totally leaving it in though. I'm not going to delete it. To your soul. Again, I feel like that's just really woo woo, but what is it costing your soul? What is it costing your time? What is it costing your energy? What is it costing your other creative works to do whatever it is you're doing to make money? Just think about it. And again, no shame and guilt if you're at a point where you're like, I just have to pay the bills. I have to do what I have to do. Fine. But if you don't love it, then plan an exit strategy if you're able to. Like, okay, if I build this up enough, can I make a passive income here and try to do this? So I had built up enough passive income with affiliate income that I could actually use that to start and fund the money I needed to now make money with the books that I'm doing. So I used it for covers, I used it for editing, and it was all passive income. And I was able to take a break from all the other stuff I did so that I could focus on the books. And that's what I talked about in episode 135, if you heard that already. And so some of those, other kinds of things that maybe are not your favorite things, maybe they'll fund you being able to move into doing what you really love. But think about the cost. I hope this is helpful. Again, if you want the show notes, you can go to creativewriting.com/136 for episode 136. That's it. Other than, I would love for you to sign up for the Quick Fix, which is my weekly email. I share the links to my podcast episodes so you know that they're up, and also helpful links and resources, and kind of tell you guys what I'm up to. You can go to creativewriting.com/quick fix to sign up and get those weekly emails on Fridays. Every so often they're pushed to Saturday, but generally they are Fridays. And that's all. If you want to join with the actual community where people talk to each other, you can go to creativewriting.com/community, which is our Facebook community. It's free, it's fun, it's filled with great creative people and people you can bounce ideas off of. I'm so thankful that you came today to your earbuds. You didn't come anywhere. I'm so thankful you're listening. I'm glad that you're here. I'm hoping that you don't care that I just sometimes leave things into the podcast like this. I'm moving into this point where I feel like they're not mistakes. It's just the words that I say, and you guys are tracking with me on that. So thank you for being with me and bearing with me. Go out and do creative work that you love to serve your people well.